Okay, hello and welcome to this Java Bukkit plugin development tutorial. In this video what we're going to be doing is creating a TNT notifier plugin. So essentially what this will do is it will, when a player places TNT on the server, it will stop them placing it, and it will also send a notification message to all the players. It will broadcast a message. So the way we're going to do this is by using the various events, and I'll get to that as we progress. So we're starting from the point we left off in the sort of introduction to this series video. So what I'm going to do now is just create a new class file inside of our package that we've created. So I'm going to right click on the package, go to new and class. I'm going to call this class the name of our plugin. So we'll call it notifier, like so. Hit enter, and this is essentially the class which represents our plugin. So this is where all of our sort of things are going to be contained. So we'll just make that a little bit bigger so it looks neater. And the thing about this class is that it has to extend the Java plugin class, which is a thing from Bukkit, which just makes the server aware of our plugin-ish. So anyway, the reason that has a red underline under it is because it needs to be imported so that Java knows what this is. At the moment it doesn't. So if we hover over that, Eclipse will give us the option to import Java plugin from this location. Just hit that, and that line is added, and it's all fixed. And now you can see that this has a line under it, which is another compile warning. If we hover over that, you can see that we have the option to either type TNT notifier abstract, which we don't want to do, or to add the unimplemented methods. The reason this comes up is because you have to have a on enable and on disable method. So if we just click that, it will add those two methods for us. Now this is a bit awkward really, because there's a lot of extra stuff that we don't need here, like these overrides and this white space. And then the other problem is that these are kind of backwards, because you enable the server before you disable it. So what you usually do is just swap these around so that it makes more sense logically. Oops. So just tab that across, and also I don't like spaces there, but not really much you can do about that. Okay, so essentially what we've got now are two methods which are called when the server starts up and when it shuts down. But this only happens if the server knows about our plugin, which at the moment it doesn't. And the way we need to tell it about our plugin is by creating a plugin.yml file. And what that is a config file, essentially, which contains sort of all of the information about our plugin. So I'll just demonstrate this. You have to create it in the source folder, not inside the package. So I'm going to right click on the source folder, go to new, and we're going to create an other, because we want to create a simple file. And under general, you should see file here. So I'm going to click next, and the name of this file has to be plugin.yml. So then we're just going to click finish. And rather awkwardly, that opens up with my text editor, which is why you can see that big grey screen. So I'm going to close that, and we've just got that here. So to open this with Eclipse, if you have the same problem, you can just drag it across like that, and it will open up. Okay, so inside this file, we need to define a few settings. First one being the name of the plugin, which is this. Second one being the version of the plugin, which is, I'm going to set it as 0.1. You can set it to literally anything you want, but numbers are preferred. And then you need to define the main. And what that is the path to your main plugin class. And this tells the server which class you should, which class it should load first. So this is the path to our TNT notifier. And by path, I mean it's essentially the package name and then the class name. So for us, this is oh, I've got that backwards. Hopefully everybody spotted that and left me horrible comments in the previous video. Never mind. Anyway, let's rename it. So if you want, okay, useful tip. If you want to rename a class file, a package even, you can right click on it, go to refactor and rename. Apparently that needs to be saved first, so fair enough. So I'll just swap these around so it is in fact the correct reversed order. Okay, fixed. And then it has to mess about to change names. Well, whatever. Anyway, so package name first, which is I just got this wrong way round. It's this, like that, and then the rest of the package, and then the class name, like so. And again, that just tells the server which class it should load. Simple. Right, so now we've got that set up. I'll just swap these around actually, so it makes more sense. We have our basic plugin set up. So just for the sake of testing, let's export this, and we'll try starting up the server and seeing if it loads. So let's go to File, Export, Java, jar file, next, TNT Notifier, that's the plugin we want to export, and the place we want to save it is this box here, so I'm going to click Browse, we're going to go to our dev folder, and the folder we were working in, then we're going to export it directly into the server's plugins folder, so I'm going to do that, and click OK. Please type a file name, OK, will do. .jar. So just call it the name of your plugin, .jar, click OK again, and there we go. And also, it's probably a good idea, you should export Java source files as resources. And what that does is just puts all of your .java files into the jar file, just so that, you know, open source, it's always nice, people can look at it if they want to. Anyway, that's that done. So let's click Next, and what we're going to do is save the description of the jar in this workspace. Well, I sort of read that wrong, but whatever. Anyway, what that does is save a description, so that you don't have to go through this whole next process every time you want to export your plugin. So I'm just going to put this in the workspace we're in, which is this / I'm going to call it out.jardesk. Why not? Okay, so now just click Finish, and this file should appear here, which it has. So once we've made a few changes, we can just export our plugin by double-clicking that and clicking Finish. And it asks if you want to overwrite it, which we do. And it asks again, which is annoying. I must have done that wrong. Or read the first message wrong. Well, whatever. Okay, so now we can start up our server by going to our terminal and just pressing up in the history and hitting Go. And we should see a loaded message from our server. Ignore that stuff about offline mode. Yep, there you go. So you can see that the server has in fact loaded up our plugin, and that's it. That's all we need to see from that. So let's just type stop, and we'll get on with the actual coding. Okay, well, I'll let it stop by itself. Right, so what we need to do now is in our onEnable, we need to add some code to register the events that we're going to use to actually catch people placing TNT blocks. So the way we'll do that is by using we need to first create a class which is going to handle all of our events. So what we'll do is create a new class inside of our project and our package, and we'll call this TNT Notifier TNT Listener. So what that's going to do is listen for all of the TNT events. So we'll click Finish. And the way this worked previously is that you had to have your class extend the block listener or something like that, and you could only listen for block events, which was quite restrictive. The new event system, which is essentially what I've got to re-record all my tutorials, is a lot more flexible and a lot more speedy and loads of good things. Anyway, so the way the new event system works is your listener class, which is this we've just created, has to implement the listener interface, which again will need to be imported and probably spelt right. So yep. Okay, and then in here you can create all of the methods which handle the various events. So for example, if we want to listen for the block place event, we can do public void. I'm going to call mine on block place just because that's the sort of convention that I got used to. You can actually call it anything at all that you like, and we're going to pass in it needs to have passed in the block, not the block place event, and I'm just going to call that parameter event, and that will need to be imported because everything does. Okay, so at the moment this event won't actually be called. We need to tell the server that we want to have this method called whenever a block place event happens, and the way we do that is by registering it with the event handler, and the way we do that is by using one of these weird comments above our method. So to have the method called, we use an @ symbol, Then we do event handler, and this will need to be imported like everything, so import, and this will, just as it is now, that will register our event with normal priority. And I'll explain priorities in a little while, but just for now, don't worry about it too much. What I prefer to do personally is to always specify the priority, just so that it's a bit more clear from the code. And the way you do that, so if you ever want to specify the priority, is to set the priority variable equal to an event priority, which I can never spell, priority, and then you have to pick one. So let's just say, for the sake of it, oops, high, because it's like a security thing. You probably would want it above normal. Okay, so that's that done. I should probably explain priorities now, really, because it makes the most sense to do it now. So essentially, the way priorities work in Bukkit is that you have these priorities. So lowest being the lowest, obviously, then low, normal, high, highest. So when an event is called, it can be passed to various plugins. And if you register your event with lowest, the event will be passed to your plugin before it's passed to plugins that have registered on normal or any of the ones above. So that's essentially how that works. It's not really a priority, that's kind of a misleading word. Maybe order or something would be better, but whatever. Monitor, by the way, is a special level. It's called after any of the other levels, but you're not meant to prevent events from happening, so you can't cancel an event on the monitor level. So monitor should be used for things like logging. Anyway, like I said, we're just going to pick high, just don't really know why, just for the sake of it. Okay, so that's that done. And then we need to actually register this class, because the Bukkit server doesn't scan all of your class files. It has to be told which one it needs to look for events in. The way we do that is in our onEnable here. So you do this, get server, get plugin manager, and actually what I'm going to do is create a variable which has the type manager. I'm going to set this variable's name to manager and set it equal to that. So that let's just import that. So that in the future, when we add more events, it's just a bit more future-proof, a bit easier to handle that. So to register some events from a class, you do, or to register a listener, I should say, you do manager, register, events, and then you pass in the instance of the listener, so we're going to create a new one. So new TNT notifier TNT listener, like so. And as a second parameter, you pass in this, which is this actual instance of your plugin class. And what that does is it essentially allows the server to link various events or various listeners to various plugins, so that when they're disabled, they can disable the right events. Don't worry about that too much. Just make sure you pass in this as a second parameter. Okay, so now that we've registered our events, we need to actually code something in them. So essentially what I'm going to do is check to see if the block that they placed is TNT, and if it is, we'll cancel it and set up, well, we'll worry about the warning system in a future video. Anyway, for now, let's just do, well, first thing we should really do is make sure that no other plugin has already cancelled the event. So the way we can do that is by doing if event is cancelled, because obviously if it's already cancelled, there's no point us checking and then cancelling it again. That's just a waste of time. So if the event is cancelled, we're just going to return straight away, like so. And now you can actually write this on one line, which is something I tend to do because it keeps it sort of fairly separate from the rest of your sort of code for that method, and also it just makes it a tiny bit sort of shorter, which is something you really want to do because these class files do tend to grow quite large. So what I can do is just remove the brackets. Not like that. Just remove the brackets and put that up there. Okay, and that's usually how I write it. It's up to you, obviously, sort of preference. Okay, so to check the type of the block, we can use the event again to get the block type. So we can do if event get type is equal to material, which is just the class used to store all of the various materials, material TNT, like so. So if it's a TNT block, oh, okay, something's kind of happened here. Oh, sorry. Okay, you can't use event get type. That's not the type of the block. you have to get the block and then get the type of the block. So instead of using event get type, you do event get block, which is here, and then get type on the block, like that, which makes more sense. Sorry, I'm being forgetful. Doesn't really matter. Well, it does matter. Make it this. Do it this way. Anyway, so if you've detected they have placed a TNT block, you can set the event to cancelled just by doing event set cancelled to false, like so. And then you can deliver a message to the player and broadcast a message globally. But let's not do that right now because we're going to create another method to actually do that. But the reason for that is that we need to create various other we need to use one other event because people they can't place TNT at the moment because of this code, but they can ignite already placed TNT, which hopefully that makes sense. Anyway, let's just start up our server and we'll test it out. So let's export our plugin first. So let's just double click that and click finish. Yeah, I want to overwrite it. Why is that happening? That's odd. Well, whatever. Anyway, let's go to our plugin, our server, and start it up. Like so. Like so. If it just takes any longer. There it goes. And you can see that our plugin has been enabled successfully, and there aren't any sort of errors, which is always good. So let's just go across to the game, and we'll click multiplayer. And then I will click direct connect because we're connecting to my local PC, which is that, and we'll click join, and then we should log into a brand new world where I'm jammed in the floor. Okay, there we go. That's unfortunate. Right, so anyway, what I'll have to do is just give myself some TNT. What is it? 46. Obviously I haven't got the right plugin. There we go. So if I just place this, it's allowed, which isn't quite right. Why has that happened? Oh. Okay. So that took longer than it should for me to work out, but essentially what I've done is set the event cancelled to false, which doesn't make any sense. I want to cancel the event, so I set that to true. Presumably that was just a typo. Anyway, because of that, we need to restart the server now and re-export the plugin. I think you can, overwrite existing files without warnings, which will stop it doing that thing again. So that's fixed. So now we've exported our plugin. We can actually just use reload, but let's not do that because it's not very good. So wait for that to save, and then we'll start it up once more. And this time I've done it right, so it should work. So yeah, that would have actually allowed people to place TNT if a previous plugin had cancelled it. Not great. Anyway, let's reconnect. There we go. And now I'll try placing some, and there you go. You can see that it instantly disappears and appears again in my inventory. And however much I try, it will not place. Even if it does sort of stay placed client side, it won't be there on the server. And other people on the server won't see it flashing like that. That's just because the client renders it before the server tells them not to. That makes sense. So yeah, that's that done. So the next thing we need to do is we need to handle people being able to ignite already placed TNT blocks. So to do that, we'll have to actually place a few so we can test with them. So what I'll do is just go back to the code, or actually I'll go back to the console and click, I'll type stop, and we will remove our plugin. Although I think what I'll actually do is leave that for next time, because I just realised this video is getting rather long. So yeah, that's it. It's a good place to stop. So come back for part 2 and we'll cover how to actually send the message and maybe how to detect if a player is an op. That'd be a kind of handy thing to do. So let's do that. Okay, yeah, so come back for part 2 and we'll basically finish this off.